Imagine living inside, well, a constant emotional storm.
Hmm.
1 minute you're desperately craving love, connection, maybe just some understanding.
Yeah.
And the next, you find yourself pushing everyone away, maybe with anger, maybe arrogance, sometimes even this odd sense of superiority.
Right.
It's confusing, it's chaotic, and you might just chalk it up to, that's just me, or life's hard, or my personality. But what if it's actually more intricate?
Hmm.
What if, like we've seen in the material you shared, it's two really powerful, often invisible forces: borderline personality disorder, BPD, and narcissistic personality disorder, NPD, not just side by side, but actually colliding inside you, often without you even realizing it.
Yeah.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into something really fascinating and honestly not discussed nearly enough: how traits from both BPD and NPD can show up in the same person.
It's such a compelling area.
Right, because on the surface, they look like opposites, don't they? BPD's intensity versus NPD's, well, apparent confidence.
Exactly. Polar opposites, seemingly.
Yet when they mix, they don't just add up. They create this unique, often really turbulent inner world. So our mission for this deep dive, looking at the sources you brought, is to shine a light on these hidden patterns, maybe expose some emotional traps.
Yeah, and hopefully offer some clarity.
Exactly. By the end, offer a clearer perspective, maybe for yourself or perhaps for someone you care about.
It's an incredibly important topic, I think, precisely because of that paradox. What's really striking isn't just that they can coexist, but how these seemingly opposing traits interact. They can amplify each other, twist each other, and fundamentally reshape someone's internal reality. Understanding this collision gives us, huge insight into behaviors that might otherwise just seem completely baffling.
Okay, let's unpack this then, because to really get the collision, we need to understand the individual parts first, right? The emotional landscapes.
Definitely.
So for someone with BPD traits, emotions aren't just feelings. They're described as these intense, unpredictable, almost overwhelming tidal waves.
That's a good way to put it.
It's not just sadness, it's like profound despair, not just worry, but this gut-wrenching fear of being abandoned.
Yeah.
So like a small disagreement, it can feel catastrophic, like the end of the world, the end of a relationship, all because that fear is magnified so intensely.
Every peak, every valley is just
Huge. Hugely amplified. It colors everything.
And that intense emotional vulnerability, it stands in such stark contrast to how NPD traits often show up.
Right?
With NPD traits, you often see this carefully built mask.
A mask.
Yeah, often made of pride or arrogance, maybe an air of superiority. But it's specifically designed to hide vulnerability.
Okay.
And what's really crucial for our deep dive, and something the sources really emphasize, is that while someone with these traits might look calm, confident, maybe even untouchable on the outside, that's not the core reality.
It's a performance.
It's an elaborate shield.
Yeah.
A fortress, really, protecting this deeply hidden core of shame, fear, and insecurity. It's like a defense mechanism working overtime.
Wow. Okay, so picture that internal dynamic then. One moment you've got that intense BPD craving for connection. It almost hurts, right? Desperate for reassurance, closeness.
Yeah, the deep need.
But then almost immediately, maybe the next moment, those NPD traits kick in. And instead of leaning into that need, you instinctively just push people away.
Right. Walls go up.
Exactly. Walls of arrogance, anger, whatever it is. And it's not just a mood swing. That's way too simple.
You use simple.
It's this subtle, powerful interplay between these underlying patterns, like two different operating systems running constantly in the background. Sometimes maybe they align, but often they're fighting each other.
Creating that disorienting push-pull.
Yeah. And the person experiencing it often doesn't even connect the dots, doesn't realize that this conflict is the source of so much distress.
And what's truly fascinating when these patterns mix is how they distort the sense of self.
Okay, yeah. Tell me about that.
Well, BPD, almost by definition, leads to this profound instability in identity. You might genuinely not know who you are from one day or even one situation to the next.
Really? Like values and goals shifting.
Absolutely. Values, goals, even likes and dislikes can change dramatically. It leaves you feeling kind of rootless, empty, just fundamentally confused about who you actually are at your core.
Okay, and then you throw in the NPD traits, which, as you said, are all about building this idealized self-image.
Exactly. But it's not based on internal knowing.
No.
No, it's about projecting a specific version of yourself, often quite grandiose, that absolutely demands admiration and validation from other people.
So it's outward focused.
Completely. It's a constant performance, really, designed to get a specific reaction from the outside world.
So how on earth do those two things coexist? The unstable, searching BPD self and this rigid, performed NPD self. How do they clash?
Ah, see, that's where the real insight comes in. The inner conflict when they combine is, well, it's profound. It's like a constant internal tug of war.
Oh,
One moment, you might be drowning in feelings of worthlessness, emptiness, feeling not enough, or maybe too much, that core BPD insecurity.
all right, that raw feeling.
But then, almost like a switch flips, that narcissistic defense mechanism jumps in, and you lash out. With
How?
entitlement, maybe self-importance, even grandiosity. It's a powerful, almost reflexive way the mind tries to overcorrect.
Like putting up that arrogant shield you mentioned.
Exactly, an arrogant shield thrown up instantly to cover that raw emptiness you felt just seconds before. It's a compensatory mechanism.
Wow. Just picturing that constant swing back and forth, the sheer exhaustion of it must be immense.
It's incredibly draining.
You're never quite sure which version of you is real, are you? The vulnerable, needy person or the superior, demanding one?
And that deep confusion, that inner instability, it doesn't just stay inside.
No, I bet it affects everything.
It absolutely does. It inevitably spills over and significantly impacts relationships, work, just your overall sense of self-worth.
I'm really interested in the relationships part. That seems like where it would get incredibly messy.
It often does.
How does this specific combination tend to show up when people try to connect?
That often brings us right into what you could call relationships on fire. It's where the tension becomes really visible.
Okay.
The BPD characteristics, they drive this powerful, almost desperate urge to cling to others.
That fear of abandonment again.
Exactly, that intense visceral fear of abandonment fueling a constant, almost insatiable need for reassurance. Every little interaction can feel like a test.
Like you're always looking for proof they won't leave.
Constantly seeking proof, needing someone to hold you up, emotionally speaking.
Yeah.
But
And
then,
then the NPD side comes in.
right, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, how these patterns weave together, it creates this fascinating, often destructive dynamic.
The push-pull.
The push-pull, exactly. That deep BPD neediness and fear crashes right into the NPD traits. And those often involve significant struggles with empathy, truly feeling with someone else. And also, often, a powerful craving for control in the relationship. A need to dictate the terms, to be the one in charge. It can be overwhelming.
So you have this huge need for connection,
Immense need.
but also this massive barrier to actually forming that genuine empathetic connection because of the control and empathy issue.
It's precisely. It's a setup for conflict.
So what kind of patterns actually emerge from that? It sounds chaotic.
It often is. Truly chaotic and, frankly, heartbreaking patterns can emerge. You might intensely idealize someone at first.
Put them on a pedestal.
Absolutely. See them as perfect, maybe even the savior who's finally going to fill that emptiness inside.
Okay.
But then maybe they get too close. Or maybe they disappoint you in some small way. And that triggers both the BPD fear of abandonment and the NPD fear of being exposed or losing control.
And then what?
Then you suddenly devalue them. You might nitpick their flaws, push them away emotionally, create distance, maybe even lash out.
Wow. It's like building something beautiful and then kicking it down yourself.
It's a bit like that, yeah. Like building a perfect sandcastle and then instinctively stomping on it just as the tide rolls and maybe out of a deep fear it's going to get washed away anyway.
And the sources are clear. This isn't just being insecure or selfish even.
No, not in the typical sense. It's a consistent, almost involuntary pattern. It's driven by that fundamental conflict, wanting intense love and connection desperately.
But also being terrified of vulnerability or needing to protect that fragile ego at all costs.
Exactly. The fear of exposure or the need to maintain superiority often wins out in those moments.
And the impact on partners, I can only imagine.
It's immense. Partners often feel completely bewildered, whipsawed, between feeling adored one minute and utterly discarded the next. They feel hurt, confused, sometimes even manipulated.
Yeah.
And what's really crucial and often surprising from the research is that the person with these intertwined traits, they often don't fully grasp why they're doing it.
Really? They don't see the pattern.
From their internal viewpoint, it often feels like a necessary defense, a desperate attempt to protect themselves from perceived threats or slights, rather than a conscious choice to hurt someone.
So that lack of self-awareness is key.
It's huge. And it's often a direct result of the NPD traits effectively masking or overshadowing the BPD vulnerabilities. It makes it incredibly hard for them to connect their outward actions to the deep underlying drivers, like shame.
Okay, shame. Let's talk about that. That raises a big question. What's really driving all this complexity underneath? Is it shame?
Well, often at its absolute core, the answer is yes. Shame is frequently a fundamental element underlying both sets of traits, though it looks different.
How so?
For BPD, the shame often comes from feeling fundamentally too much, too emotional, too needy, too intense, or conversely, not enough.
Like feeling unworthy of love or just flawed.
Exactly, inherently flawed. It's a very raw, exposed kind of shame. You feel it acutely.
Okay, versus NPD, where, as we said, the shame isn't raw and exposed.
No, quite the opposite. With NPD traits, shame is the enemy. It's meticulously hidden, buried deep beneath layers of pride, arrogance, maybe even contempt for others.
It's like a guarded secret.
A secret that absolutely cannot be revealed, because exposing that vulnerability would shatter the whole carefully constructed, idealized self-image. It feels like annihilation.
So if both have shame at the root, but one is felt acutely and the other is hidden desperately, how does that tension play out when they exist together? Exposed shame versus concealed shame.
That's really the crux of the hidden driver. It's a critical dynamic. When BPD and NPD traits combine, one side often ends up masking the other.
The NPD masks the BPD.
Often, yes. The outward arrogance, the need for control, the grandiosity, all fueled by NPD traits, can very effectively conceal the profound sense of inadequacy, the worthlessness, or that terror of abandonment that comes with the BPD traits.
So the person themselves might not even feel BPD shame as much.
They might not recognize it as shame. The NPD defense obscures it. This leads to a situation where the person rarely, if ever, recognizes the deep underlying shame that's actually fueling their seemingly contradictory behaviors. It's like an internal sleight of hand happening automatically.
So, okay, what does this all mean then for daily life if there's this hidden, unrecognized shame-powering things?
Well, it becomes this potent, unseen driver behind a whole range of really challenging behaviors.
Like what?
The sources describe things like self-sabotage.
Mysteriously messing things up.
Yeah, where good opportunities are somehow missed or relationships get inexplicably destroyed just when they seem stable. We also see impulsivity.
Acting without thinking.
Right. Often with pretty significant negative consequences like sudden spending sprees, abrupt job changes, or ending relationships out of the blue.
Okay.
And then there are intense emotional outbursts. These can be directed inward.
Like self-criticism or worse?
Yes, deep self-criticism, depression, sometimes self-harm. Or they can be directed outward at others.
Explosive anger, accusations.
Exactly. Explosive anger, unfair accusations, blaming others intensely. It becomes this relentless, bewildering cycle, often fueled by something that a person can't even see or name within themselves.
So if you're listening to this and maybe some of these patterns are resonating, perhaps connecting with some of the insights from the material, what's the first step? It sounds overwhelming.
It can feel overwhelming.
The crucial first step, and really the most important one, has to be just awareness.
Absolutely.
Not judgment, definitely not self-blame, just shining a light, acknowledging what might be happening internally.
Exactly right. Just understanding that these conflicting traits might exist and that they offer kind of framework for your internal experiences.
Yeah.
That alone can significantly reduce the confusion.
And the self-blame, too, I imagine.
Oh, hugely. It lessens that heavy burden of self-blame. It provides a different lens. So it becomes less about I'm a bad person and more about, okay, these are understandable, though difficult, patterns at play.
It's like finally getting a map for a territory you've been lost in for ages.
That's a great analogy. It really is.
Okay, so once you have that awareness, that map, what then? Are there ways to navigate this inner storm?
Yes, definitely. There are concrete avenues. Professional therapy is often key. Finding a therapist who understands personality disorders, and specifically this potential overlap, can provide invaluable tools and insights.
Tailored help.
Tailored help, yes. And beyond that, dedicated self-reflection. Really taking the time to observe your own thoughts, feelings, and impulses without immediately reacting to them.
Just noticing.
Just noticing. And, crucially, learning specific emotional regulation strategies.
Practical techniques.
Very practical techniques. Things like mindful breathing, learning to identify the physical sensations that often come just before a big emotional wave hits, or using distraction techniques to kind of ride out the storm before it completely takes over.
So there are things you can actively do.
There are. And, to broaden perspective a bit, even if you don't have formal diagnoses, just recognizing these complex dynamics, maybe in yourself to some degree, or perhaps in someone close to you.
Yeah.
That understanding can profoundly contribute to healthier relationships all around. It fosters empathy, it encourages patience, and it just leads to a much deeper appreciation for the complexities of human behavior.
Seeing beyond the surface actions.
Exactly. Seeing the complexity beneath.
Living with BPD and NPD traits colliding. It's clearly not a personal failure. It's a significant, deeply complex challenge, a constant internal battle almost.
It truly is.
But as we've explored today, based on these sources, that critical first step towards finding some kind of balance, towards navigating that inner storm, it really does start with awareness, with understanding.
And just remember that thought. Understanding really is the beginning of healing.
Before we wrap up, here's something to chew on, a final thought building on all this. How might external factors, things like societal pressures, maybe specific life experiences like trauma or upbringing, how might those things inadvertently reinforce certain traits from either BPD or NPD?
That's a deep question.
Right, making this internal collision perhaps even harder for someone to untangle or even identify within themselves, something to ponder. If this deep dive resonated, please think about sharing it. You never know who might benefit from hearing it. Until next time.